Que bueno, mi gente, Calix Boxing. I am live. Hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos. I'm just gonna freestyle this one as I do most of the time, but just wanted to kind of get my fresh thoughts after the fight. Um, didn't want anything written down, just wanted it fresh right after the fight. And man, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong, and I was dead wrong on this one. I said I thought this was going to look a lot like Floyd Mayweather versus Arturo Gatti. And I see a lot of people out there, a lot of boxing guys trying to cover their tracks on this one, trying to say that, oh, Conor was just doing pity pad stuff and Conor, Floyd was kind of carrying and blah, blah, blah. No, dude, just say you were wrong. Just say you're wrong. And I have no shame as a boxing guy. And I like UFC too. And I like Conor. I've watched a lot of his fights in the UFC, but I thought I was going to get a Mayweather versus Gotti performance tonight where he just had a sitting duck in front of him, very square, and he was going to tee off on him with 8-ounce gloves, and not at all what happened. Not at all what happened. Dude, Mayweather won the fight, but McGregor's the winner tonight. I mean, his stock just skyrockets after tonight. I, I really, I'm bad. I'm very surprised at what I saw. Very surprised. Um, for a guy with no boxing, I mean, he's got amateur boxing experience, what, a decade ago? But amateur to pro, it's just a different game, just completely different. I mean, amateur boxing is sword fighting. It's not even real what you see in pro boxing. But for a guy to step up, first pro fight, first pro boxing match, big lights fighting a legend in the sport, whether he's 40 or not. I mean, it is what it is. But this is why you see, in the stamina thing, this is why you see boxers, when they turn pro, fight 4-round fights. And then they ease their way up to 6-round fights and the 8-round fights and 10-round fights. And they gradually do it over 3 or 4 years to where they finally get to 12-round fights. And you saw why. It's just a huge step up. And it's interesting that UFC title fights are 25 minutes, and that's right around the time that Conor started to really fall off in this fight, to where he couldn't even barely lift his arms. Right around the 25-minute mark, and that's where he fell. It's just a different animal when you're talking about 36 minutes instead of 25, and fighting at that pace when you're just not used to this type of fighting. So I say that to say, just an amazing performance by McGregor tonight overall. I was not impressed by Floyd at all. He looked like dog shit tonight. I thought really overall, I thought he embarrassed himself tonight. He just fought a terrible fight. And the boxing people can say what they want about McGregor. McGregor just great performance. Given the circumstances, look, first pro fight, and you're fighting Floyd Mayweather. Biggest lights, what, 4.5 million buys, all these people are watching, and you get in there, and dude, first round, and we had a perfect mixture of people at our fight party, about 10 people. You had a perfect mixture of UFC guys, and you had guys like me, boxing guys, and I dabble in the UFC as well. At times, like I said, I'm a fan of McGregor, DC, John Jones, Anderson Silva. I was a big fan of him in his prime, but I dabble in it. And then you had fans of both. So we had a perfect mixture, and all of us were in agreement halfway through the fight. Man, Floyd looks fucking terrible. He looks terrible. And there were moments in the first 3 rounds, especially, where Conor's boxing circles around him. And yeah, you can say what you want. Oh, he's waiting for later in the fight. Yeah, say what you want, but you can't at least stay even with this guy in the first 3 rounds, a guy who has never boxed professionally. And Conor, I said it first minute in the fight, he looks so calm in there. He looks patient. He looks calm. Not the guy I expected. And I'm the one who dropped the video on Monday night saying he needed to fight the fight that Maidana fought in the first fight against Floyd. He needs to just go out there, throw big punches, see what sticks. And that's what Floyd expected. And that's not at all what he got. What you got was a very cerebral guy. And I saw Teddy Atlas doing a pre-fight on ESPN earlier in the day, and he was talking about how cerebral Conor is. He was watching his fights, and he's not going to get it. You're not going to get a caveman in there tonight just going for it. And I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, I think that's the wrong strategy to have, but it ended up being right. Teddy was right on the money with this. Conor's a very cerebral fighter, smart fighter. Lateral movement was crazy good. You saw Floyd kept turning his back to him, and it was more of Conor stepping laterally to the side and Floyd walking forward, and all of a sudden Conor's behind him. And I just thought at times, especially the first 3 rounds, and I thought the scorecards were bullshit because Floyd lost the first 3 rounds for sure. For sure, this was a close fight on my card anyway. And a lot of people's cards, everybody at the fight party thought it was a close fight. And like I said, you had a perfect mixture of guys. It wasn't just anti-Floyd. It wasn't pro-McGregor. I mean, it was a nice mixture of people, and everybody was in agreement. This was a close fight. And you saw the writing was on the wall. The wheels were spinning. It was only a matter of time. I actually think that Floyd probably stops him in the 11th round. But that's the thing too. Look, you got a guy that was dead from the 8th to the 10th round. I mean, you just saw Conor just couldn't keep his hands up. He couldn't lift his arms, and a lot of it is the muscles, and it takes a lot more out of you when you're that muscular. I mean, he was probably 170 tonight somewhere, and it's all muscle, so that wears down faster than a guy who's not as muscular, such as a Floyd, and a guy who's used to fighting 12 rounds. And it just blows me away that this guy, this is his first professional boxing fight. And he's in there with the seasoned veteran who fighting 12-round fights for 2 decades, almost 2 decades, 17, 18 years he's been fighting 12-round fights. And you had to wait for him to get winded before you can finally step on the gas and try to finish him. And you had 3 rounds to finish him and you couldn't fucking knock him out. That's incredible to me. Like, to me, this was a terrible performance by Floyd. He looked like dog shit tonight. Like, what the fuck was that? Flat-footed, just loading up on shots the whole fight, and just this is usually the fight. It's usually the opposite. Like, Conor was completely controlling pace and distance through the first half of the fight. You know, he's using the jab. He's jabbing. He's using lateral movement. He was slipping Floyd's shots. He was actually slipping his fucking shots and countering with uppercuts. So what the fuck is this? And I don't know if it's Floyd just didn't take him seriously, didn't train hard enough, 40 years old. I don't know. Maybe it's a mixture of all, but Conor looked fucking good. And I was the one telling everybody, and once again, I'll throw myself out there and say when I'm wrong. I just thought that Conor was going to get completely outclassed in this fight. I was telling people you shouldn't buy the fight, and I ended up going to a fight party because this isn't going to be a good fight. This isn't going to be a good fight. This is a mismatch, and it ended up not being a mismatch. It ended up being one of those fights to where you're like, if Conor McGregor would have had 3 fights under his belt, maybe he beats Floyd tonight. If he has that stamina to go 12 rounds, maybe he edges him out. Not on the scorecards, and that's the thing. Like, you saw the deck completely stacked against McGregor coming into this. It was all boxing rules. You had 3 judges who were obviously pro-Floyd, in my opinion. And then Robert Byrd, when you saw him at the beginning of the fight talking to the fighters about the rules, he's looking at McGregor the whole time. And there was a moment even in between rounds where Floyd pushed Conor after the bell, and Conor just walks back to his corner, and then Byrd goes to Floyd's corner and kind of taps him on his knee, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So to me, and I think Robert Byrd was looking for a point to stop it, but the stoppage was terrible. To me, it robbed Floyd of an emphatic victory. I think he eventually knocks him out, and it made McGregor look good because he didn't go down. You're supposed to be the boxer, 8-ounce gloves. You're saying you're going to knock him out, and you didn't even knock him down, and he was dead. He had not, like, he couldn't even lift his arms. And still you couldn't get him on the canvas. I mean, just a terrible performance by Floyd tonight, and a lot of that has to do with McGregor. You got to give McGregor credit. He was cerebral tonight. He was tricky. He was awkward. Great lateral movement. Um, Used the jab, went to the body with, like you see on that picture right there. He reached in through the straight left to the body, and Floyd didn't even counter it. Just he looked like a much bigger guy. Used his pace and distance well through the first half of the fight. Um, to, the fact that he made it out of the first half of the fight, and he made it out of the first half of the fight up on a lot of people's scorecards, a lot of boxing people, a lot of fans scorecards in the first half of the fight, and he was even in the fight through the first half of the fight, and he was actually outboxing Floyd. I can't even believe I'm fucking saying that. I mean, and say what you want. I know there's going to be a lot of Flomos out there, a lot of boxing people saying, "Oh, he was just carrying him. He was loading up on shots to try to blah, blah." Dude, come on. Conor was actually outboxing Floyd at times in the first half of the fight, and Floyd looked like dog shit. I mean, it was terrible, 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 terrible. And whether this is bad for boxing, I don't know. It certainly didn't look good for boxing. That's for sure. That a mixed martial artist can come off the street, first professional fight, and be in there with a legend through 10 rounds. And wow. First fight, you expect, to me, I thought more that I was like, okay, maybe Conor's stamina is good. He's sparring 12 rounds with boxers. Maybe his stamina is going to be fine in this fight. But I thought it was going to be more of an issue of technical ability. But you saw in this fight, he actually had some good boxing technical ability. He's super awkward, but the lateral movement is great. He's using his jab. He's buying time. He's throwing straight lefts behind it. He's countering with the uppercut as Floyd. He's actually slipping Floyd shots and staying in the pocket and fucking countering with an uppercut. You're like, what the fuck is this? It was incredible. Phenomenal performance all the way around for McGregor, and he just gassed. He's just not used to the boxing 12 rounds. It is what it is, but given the expectations, Floyd gets an F for tonight. Fucking terrible dog shit performance, and he needs to retire before, because Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence are licking their chops after watching this. And then McGregor, I'm a fan. I'm a fan now. I mean, he proved it to me tonight. The heart was there. He wanted to keep going. Good technical performance overall. I mean, he's a legit boxer. You saw that tonight. He's a legit boxer. And there are legit boxers in the UFC. Him, the Diaz brothers, they're legit. Anderson Silva was a legit boxer. There are some legit boxers there, and Conor proved it tonight. And to me, that made it look bad for boxing tonight. And I hate to say that as a huge boxing fan, a boxing nerd, but to see a guy first fight coming out the UFC do this against a legend in the sport, and the fact that if Mayweather walked in the octagon, he'd get armbarred and choked out within a minute. Not a good look. Not a good look. But it is what it is, man. Props to McGregor for a great performance tonight. I mean, I'm a fan whether he goes back in the UFC or stays in boxing. I'd love to see him box again. Hopefully they work on that stamina a little bit. He can go 12 rounds. Because if he can go 12 rounds, if the stamina is there, you saw he can box. And he can be in there with anybody at 154. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. So, great performance by him. I expect him to go back into the UFC, and you'll probably see that Diaz trilogy, but there's going to be a lot of money on the table for him in boxing, a lot. And Malinagi's punk ass is probably going to and that's one thing. Let me speak on that real quick before I shut this thing up. The fact that Malignaggi gets to call the fight on Showtime after all the bullshit he pulled this week. Imagine, look, let's recap what Malignaggi did this week. He stalked McGregor and goaded him into talking trash back and forth while McGregor is trying to get ready for his fight with Mayweather. Okay. Then he goes to Mayweather's gym after talking about all these boxing ethics, I'm trying to help Conor get ready for a fight. And then they pull this bullshit. And then he goes to Mayweather's gym and says that he was a mole for Mayweather. And he was trying to help Mayweather out by bringing him the inside scoop on what McGregor's doing in the gym. And then you let that guy call a fight between those two fighters? Imagine, baseball. An analyst goes into the Cubs clubhouse and then gets the inside scoop and then goes to the Cardinals clubhouse and talks on camera about how he got the inside scoop and how he got that team, and you know what I mean? And then he calls the game. That's not going to happen. That made Showtime look bad to me. Malignaggi shouldn't have been calling that fight, but it is what it is. With that, boxing is boxing. That type of shit happens in our sport. But Malignaggi's ass would not. You saw it tonight. Malignaggi would not beat McGregor. He just would not. And the fact that Malignaggi, and I doubted it at the time when I'd see the stuff coming out that McGregor beat Malignaggi in sparring, blah blah. I believe it now. Now I see, yeah, he probably whooped his ass in sparring. So I don't want to see Malignaggi talk his way into a fight, but it probably will. They'll probably do McGregor versus Malignaggi down the line, and McGregor would actually get a win in that one. But either way, I'm looking forward to seeing this guy, whether it's in the octagon or in boxing. And props to him for taking a chance here. And he did it for the money. I mean, the money talks, but he showed his heart tonight, and he showed that he wasn't just in this for a payday. He wanted to win this fight. We thought he was crazy. He backed up the shit talk. He didn't win the fight, but he held up the end of his bargain. That's for sure. So props to McGregor. Yeah, Mayweather won the fight, but McGregor won the night. I'm out. Peace.